What I mean by that is that people say all the time, the Bible says this. Unless they are literally quoting verbatim the actual text of the Bible, then they're interpreting it. And their interpretation is not necessarily what's in the text, because ultimately texts don't have any inherent meaning. A text is just a collection of signs and symbols. And the nature of human language is that there are an awful lot, there's a virtually limitless, infinite number of interpretations that could be intended with any given set of signs and symbols. And once you open the door to the fact that a lot of things can be coded, a lot of you can have secret codes, and then you can have kind of inside jokes, you can have vernacular, you can have all kinds of ways that any given linguistic expression could be understood, depending on the author, depending on the audience, to mean any one of a number of different things. And when we whittle it down to one thing, we're making choices about what we're going to, the meaning that we're going to create with a text. The cognitive process is kind of a two-step thing. Whenever we see a text, unconsciously, we're not aware that this is going on, but our mind is generating all the potential meanings that could have been intended by that text. And then we're using clues, contextual clues, non-linguistic clues, all kinds of cues and clues to help us whittle down those potential meanings to what we think was intended. And we frequently get it wrong. Anyone who's married knows that you can say something that makes perfect sense to you, and your spouse can be like, oh, you mean this other thing? And you're like, no. And so misunderstanding happens all the time. And it's precisely because what we're doing is encoding something that's in our mind that is not isometric with human language. We're using human language to encode something that's in our mind. And on the other end, somebody has to decode that thing based on what's in their mind. And so, you know, a story I tell is my first week in Oxford. I was on Cornmarket Street, which is this little foot traffic retail district in downtown Oxford. And I was there to set up phones or get my bank account set up. I forget what I was there for. But I was hungry. I saw a KFC. I went, sweet, I'm going to get some biscuits. And I went in there and I asked for biscuits. And a lot of people who know about the UK or have been to or have lived in the UK know that in the UK, biscuits means cookies. And so this poor young man behind the counter was like, why would we have biscuits? And I was like, this is KFC. And I didn't understand what was going on. Then I remembered, okay, when I use that code, they're decoding something entirely different on the other end. Because there's no inherent meaning. It's just a sign or a symbol. And so I realized then that the image I had in my head, I didn't know what combination of words I could use to help that poor young man generate in his mind the buttery, flaky goodness that I was after. I was like, I was just lost for words. And people have said, oh, you should have said a scone. And I don't dignify that with a response, because a KFC biscuit is not a scone by any stretch of the imagination. And so, like, that's an example, a simple example. You can get a lot more complex, but that's an example of how there's no meaning somehow metaphysically inhabiting the ink on a page or the pixels on a screen or the sound waves traveling through the air or the light, whatever, bouncing off of hand signs and signals. There's no meaning hiding out anywhere. It's just a code, and the person who is receiving the code is responsible to generate what they think the code was intended to mean. So in that sense, the Bible doesn't say anything. It only says whatever we create in negotiation with the text. When we go, okay, so it's using this idiom in a translation. If they're reading it in the original text, you've got a lot more work to do, a lot further to travel. You're reconstructing what you think is going on here. So what the Bible says is really what you are constructing, what you are deciding the Bible says. And an awful lot of people who read the Bible are motivated to understand the Bible to only be able to and only be allowed to say certain things. The Bible is not allowed to contradict. God is not allowed to lie. God is not allowed to command child sacrifice. There are all kinds of things that the Bible is and is not allowed to do for readers of the Bible. And when they come to the text and subconsciously create meaning with the text, that meaning is overwhelmingly going to serve the interest that they bring to it, and it's going to operate within the boundaries that they impose upon.
If you want more conversations like this with the world's leading scholars and skeptics, make sure you hit that subscribe button. New episodes drop every single Monday.